Greetings, friend. You've made it to the next phase of Moonday Monday. I, Sparkvisla, shall be your guide unto the stars. Now, let's do the damn thing. For this Moonday Monday, August 29th, 2016, Lady Selene will be upon the cosmic stage bearing the crescent as she moves into the new moon. Those of us on the American side tonight won't be able to see her, but she definitely will be around for the rest of the world. And us, she'll be back. I promise she's not leaving like Mom did. She said she was going to the grocery store. I'm still waiting for those Cheerios. And on to the podcast. For this podcast of citizen science, I have a few topics laid out. Not too few, but not too many either. Some are near, some are afar, but no matter where you are, these can guide you to the stars. Starting off, we're going to be giving a background on the podcast itself and what was the spark that led us here. From there, going to be talking about citizen science. And as a human, you are a citizen. No matter of what country, you are a citizen of the human race. And science can relate to you, and you can relate to it. From there, we're going to be talking about some upcoming launches, both in the States and even overseas, particularly in China. But from there, we're also going to be talking about the Google Lunar X Prize, but then we're going to be talking about some past news items. And then we're going to be wrapping up with a quick note/reminder of the Google Lunar X Prize, because that's what this is all about, or one of the many things. Well, as my old coach used to say, let's do the damn thing. Podcast in particular is a citizen science effort. However, some may wonder what led to it. Not that this is any particularly great podcast. I think I have followers barely in the double digits. Thank you to each and every one of you, and I really hope that you, whether you're a follower or not, you somehow get a spark out of this. I chose the name Sparkvisla for many reasons. It's a long story within itself, as you can possibly even, if you look at my icon, there's a message in it. But that aside, I am the spark, I am the Visla, I am many things, but as of now, as I wish, I am a guide. This is not about me, this is about the journey of taking you to the stars. It's not going to be something that happens tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, or I remember that episode. But this is something that I want to do to help inspire people. For me, space has always been a big thing. Ever since a kid, used to love the model planes, used to love the stars. I remember being in the group home. Oh, I don't want to give a life story. Long story short, finally we got to go outside of Oakland for once. When, I don't even remember where it was, but it was many hours of driving with this camp. And so, I believe it was with the Red Cross. But they took us out into the wilderness, and no, this is not the opening of a scary story, but they took us out there, and one night, we all went outside, and I looked up in awe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It wasn't just some clouds in the sky, or just the Big Dipper and the North Star. No. There were so many stars, and there was this cloud, the arm of the galaxy, they said. And from there, I believe had to be about age 12. Never seen that before. And from there, I didn't feel like I was just some kid from Oakland. I mean, I still kind of do, to be honest. But I felt like a seed. Being from Oakland, the term oak comes from land of oaks, kind of obvious. But like an acorn, I kind of felt like that. Because like when you see an acorn, it's just something small. Squirrels eat it all the time. But leave it there with time, and it will grow to extraordinary heights. And I hope that for you as well. Okay, and now that you know a little bit about me, let's do something for you. Citizen Science. Going to be starting off with talking about a few events. Some of these you may not be able to attend due to location or due to certain restrictions, but I do want to put them out there. As a listener, if you know of a space event that I did not mention that's coming up within the next quarter, or even 3 to 6 months, definitely throw me a comment, hit me on Twitter, not physically please, but definitely let me know, and I'll definitely make an effort to put it into Moonday Monday number 4. Starting off is the Google Lunar X Prize Team Summit, which is coming up in just a few days. That's going to be something not people off of the street can attend, but we'll be updating you on it. It's going to be taking place in Tel Aviv from August 31st to September 2nd. So for these 3 days, all of the 16 teams from the Google Lunar X Prize are going to convene upon the Tel Aviv, or rather the Google campus in Tel Aviv, and there they're going to meet and greet and whatnot, and definitely make a lot of presentations. Going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out of there. I'll keep you updated, but I'm not going to be on the ground there. I'm not going to be taking fake selfies in a random bathroom like, yeah, I'm in Tel Aviv, look at me, guys. No. But I will be updating on it. However, the best people to follow on that is SpaceIL, or Team SpaceIL, or Team SpaceIL on Twitter, and check out their Facebook, as it is their hometown, or home turf rather. Definitely follow them. They're going to be giving the best source of information. You can also check out other teams as well to get their perspective on it, but I'm pretty sure SpaceIL will have an interesting take on it, because, again, home terrain. From there, though, we have a few events that you really may like. To my listeners in the EU, well, okay. Yeah, actually the UK is still a part of the EU because that vote hasn't gone into effect. Okay, yeah, so I'm clear to even include the UK. For this next event, it's much more accessible to the public, but it is in Edinburgh, Scotland of the UK. That being said, if you are a member of any 22 EU member states, you are welcome. This will be taking place on September 10th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but let me just put this out there now. You have until September 4th, 11 Greenwich time, to register. So 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time plus 0, you have until then to register. If you aren't a member of the EU, if you're an American citizen, Australian, they could have been in EU. I wonder if they could have been in... I'm going to have to ask somebody about if Australia could have been an EU member. I know it's probably not... Okay, not even going to go down that road. Anywho, even if you aren't in the EU or a member of any of those states, I'm sure you probably have a friend or two in the EU. If not, that's okay too. I don't got any friends either, so welcome to the club. You definitely could let somebody in the EU know that you know. And even if they aren't into space, they probably could let somebody they know that's into it. So definitely spread the word. That link is going to be down in the show notes. And just to let you know, this is a free event. All you have to do is type in your name and who you are and whatnot. And since there's only 100 people per EU state allowed, to keep it at 2,200 for the entire event, just to keep it manageable, you will be technically invited. But the chances of you being let in are pretty high. It is a free event, and you also are provided food there as well. So if you know on September 10th between 9 to 5, you're not going to have access to a kitchen or anything to eat, boom, go talk about the future of space for Europe. Get fed. If there's no other motivation, feed your stomach. There you go. But this is inviting laypersons to talk about the future of space for Europe, and that's really interesting because the ESA, or who's hosting it, is opening this up to other areas. They're saying, hey, you can copy our template, let us know if you'd be interested. So I'm definitely going to be keeping tabs on this. We'll definitely update you with more information on the next Moonday Monday. Gonna try and talk to some people from the ESA on this. We'll see where that goes, but definitely we'll keep you up to date. Spread that word, register if you're in the EU, and check it out, okay? Once again, you have until September 4th, 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean +0 time to register, okay? And on to the next event, which is going to be stateside for you, those of us out here, especially on the West Coast. As you can probably guess, it's in SF. Yeah. But either way, let's get started on that one. So, the Dent the Future Space Exploration Expo is coming soon to the SF Bay Area. And now, this is something that really caught my eye because Facebook suggested it to me, which is weird because Facebook usually suggests horrible things for me. So, well done. I guess your algorithm of keeping tabs on humans is getting better. Or for worse. Anywho, this will be taking place September 21st to the 22nd. So over these 2 days, it will be at the Palace of Fine Arts. There's a Star Trek reference in there. I'm not going to make it, but you know, the old Exploratorium building. This is also a free event. So if you register now, you can get in to all of the talks and everything free. The only thing you have to pay for is like a VIP session to wine and dine, you know, with the big wigs and blah, blah, blah. But even if you don't pay that, you can still go and hear people from NASA, people from different industries. Heck, if you're a gamer, just sign up just so you can see Scott Manley. If you don't know who Scott Manley is, get ready for the Goon Squad. But in all seriousness, actually that last part was somewhat serious as well. We are going to be talking, well, I'm sorry, not we. I'll be there. I will be there. You'll probably see me floating around. I'll be giving interviews here and there or trying to give interviews. If you see a guy chasing people down like, do you have a moment for Moonday Monday? I'm Spark Vizsla. That is I. That one crazy guy that can't miss me. Anywho, they're going to be talking a lot about space exploration. And I talked to some people from Dent on Twitter asking like, hey, you know, I'm going to make a section of you in my podcast. Is there anything you want to mention? They're like, nothing really, but we want to hear your take on it. Because often, and this is a very good point, the biggest changes come, as according to NASA, from outside the field. The biggest things in space and science typically come from random folks. Like Newton, he just had an interest in how things worked. And boom, I don't need to tell you all of the things that happened that he's invented. Because if you don't know that, if you don't know that, that's okay too. But if you look at Einstein, dropout. People didn't think he would be anything of worth to society. I'm not even making that up. So for me, I really find it interesting because I have a whole bunch of ideas that I want to enact. I've always have. And one thing I found is there's a spark in all of us. But sadly, that spark has turned to an ember. And if I or this event can rekindle that spark and take your torch to the cosmic stage, by all means, mission accomplished. Because I talk to a lot of people that you never would expect wanted to be astronauts. And not like, oh yeah, astronaut was cool as a kid, you know. I saw it in a video game and on TV. No. A lot of people I talk to, they're like, yeah, I always wanted to work for NASA. Or, oh yeah, I really wanted to be an astronaut. But then they always seemed like really lonely to people, so I kind of changed my mind. And other folks are like, oh yeah, I want to be an astronaut. I'm really trying, but I think it's too late. Maybe I can do something like commercial-wise. So I'm like, wow, you know, there are a lot of people that want to get into space. If you are one of those, if you have any interest in space, the stars, or science in general, sign up for this event. Then in the show notes, once again, there is a link below. If there's any information you feel I'm leaving out, definitely drop me a line in the comments section, and I will bring it in on Moonday Monday number 4 next week. And so, definitely hope to see you there. Also, gotta throw this out there. If you are an American Sign Language user, could you please email me at sparkvizla? Actually, my email will be down in the show notes. Hit me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or wherever. Because there has been a question about, will there be an interpreter there? And that made me think. I was like, oh, wow, I did not even think about that. So if you or anybody you know knows ASL, definitely let's hook up. Let's see what we can work out. Disclaimer, I do not work for Dent. I just would merely funnel you to the proper point of contact. That is all. But I really would like to see that there, just to welcome as many people as we can. And from there, well, that wraps it up for the events. If you know of any coming up, wherever they are, definitely drop a line in the comment section. Even if it's like a live stream or something, that's also pretty cool too. I love those. So please drop a line. I'm going to be talking about some live streams on the launch section of this podcast. But for right now, also going to drop a few tidbits on a little bit more on citizen science. That being things like that you can participate in, like Zooniverse, which is pretty much a site that you can take in things from particle physics to helping Hubble identify different images. Sign up for their mailing list. There's going to be a link down below to go to their website. Check it out. See what you like. If there's anything of interest, boom, dive in, If not, hey, now you know, just something to keep an eye on if something does come up that you do enjoy. And it's not like, oh, you have to be like a college graduate to get any of the stuff on there. No, it's just like, hey, here's a picture from the Large Hadron Collider. Can you help us identify a few lines here and there? And it's not even like, oh, you have to understand like subatomic physics to get like, oh, what does this line mean? It's like, no. Does the line go like this or like this? And do you notice anything strange about it? Yes, no? Want to describe what you notice different about it versus the other ones? Oh, okay, moving on. And that's one way you can help out as well. That's just one example of many of their options on their site. There's also another citizen science website that I came across. I gotta dig it up, but it will be in the show notes below. And it gave out locations of actual physical activities for citizen science that were taking place across the world. Well, across America at least. So definitely we'll throw that down there as well. But also, if you are, let's say, in the Bay Area or anywhere that there is a observatory, check it out, because sometimes they'll have events where you can do certain citizen science things there. And also, a lot of the people there are really passionate, like the Chabot Space and Science Center in the Oakland Hills. If you are open on a Friday or Saturday night, they open up the observatory on nights that are good, and boom, and it's free as well. You don't have to even pay to get in. You just like say, hey, observatory, stars, bam, walk in like your VIP. So definitely check the people out there. Like, for example, Sam, the flight director, really great person. Met them when I went with a friend to do the Mars Challenger mission, which pretty much was like a simulator for Mars and whatnot. I don't think I'm showing my age here, but about 10 years ago in grade school, okay, I am kind of showing it. I went here and we did this same exact activity. I didn't tell my friend until the very end, but I was like, wow, and I did I did something different this time around. But just seeing it again, I'm like, wow, and now I'm really see this passion has grown. It's not just, oh, I just did it as a field trip because I had to. It's like, no, I was excited back then and I'm excited once again now. The flight director, Sam Bell, really great person. Gonna try and get an interview with her on this show, eventually. Yeah, I'm pointing you out right now. But if they are open for it, great. If not, hey, they're super busy making things awesome at the Chabot Space and Science Center. If you don't see her on the show, definitely go see her at the Chabot Space and Science Center. All right. So, from there, though, if you not near an observatory, which is unfortunate, but you still want to keep up with science and whatnot and interact with people that are in science and somehow learn how you can participate, just start talking to people in the community. One really great science community, bear with me on this one, YouTube. I know, it seems kind of crazy that I would bring up DramaTube and how it's a great place for science, but if you think about it, YouTube is essentially a secondary search engine to Google. That's literally all it is. and it's more so a search engine for drama. Okay, but that aside, it really is a good place for science. Some really notable figures is Issac Arthur. Really great guy, breaks his channel down into really amazing bits on different aspects of science. And he's not like a hype trainer either. He's not like, oh yeah, asteroid mining is like the best thing ever. He's like, no, asteroid mining is awesome. Here's why. Here's why it may be unfeasible at the current time, but in the next few years, with these couple of missions that are coming up, here's how these missions can make asteroid mining viable. And I'm like, wow, okay. I walk away smarter after listening to him. And it's not just, spit facts that they'll give you. It's actual things that you're like, oh, okay, you can keep up with what's going on. Not maybe like, every little technical part, but definitely a lot better than before. And hey, that's something for sure. Another one is Artifexcian. Now his is more of a world building channel, but however he does talk about language and whatnot. And one of the things of citizen science I feel is also science fiction. Not so much, alien babes. Okay, that one might get me in trouble like that one guy. But let's say alien stories and whatnot. Oh, okay, it doesn't seem like citizen science. But if you think about it, what got Goddard to develop the rocket, maybe not necessarily develop it, but helped inspire him, Carl Sagan, and many people of that scientific era of days gone, were writers. People who wrote about the invasion of Earth of Mars and who made stories of the canals that they could see from their telescopes. That inspired people. Look at today's world. People in NASA. Most of those people are pretty geeky and have been inspired by past things such as Star Trek, for example. Hell, Star Trek is the best example I can use. The flip phone and whatnot, the whole tricorder, a lot of that people grew up saying, oh wow, that's really cool. And actually gave them motivation to pursue that route. Maybe not necessarily to build an enterprise, but definitely you become science-minded to do things that are greater than today. So definitely check those people out. Oh, and I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't mention PBS Spacetime and Scott Manley. Scott Manley I really enjoy because when I'm following him, even if he's, like derping around and whatnot, whether it be in the Curveball Space program or like stomping folks in Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous or Space Engineers, he's really interesting to watch because it's like, wow, I feel like I'm watching an explorer because he's really knowledgeable about rockets and science, rocket science. You know how it says, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do this and that. Well, this rocket scientist is doing it. So you might be playing Star Citizen one day and you're like, oh, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to get to this base. Well, just so you know, there is probably going to be a rocket scientist there when you get there. So there's that. So if you're a gamer and you have a fringe interest in science, Scott Manley is your person. If you really enjoy science, gamer or not, PBS Spacetime gives a good layman's as well as a technical discussion on different science topics, particularly, as the name suggests, on space. And it's not, they have one technical video and one layman video. It's more so they do it all in one. You can get lost in some of them, but they do give a lot of people in the comments will help you out as well, I've noticed. They also do hold contests like, hey, here's a problem, people. How can we solve it? And so that always has them in my heart. Definitely look forward to more people that are on YouTube that are doing science things. Needless to say, if you feel I have missed anybody, definitely let me know in the comments below, and I will get them in there on Moonday number 4 if possible. If I get like in a crazy world, if I get more than like 20, I'll definitely have to probably cut it down. But hey, you know what? If I get people, I definitely want to promote them, If you want to do a podcast and have questions for a noob want to know more from a noob like me on what to do, what not to do to help you get started, I'm here. Drop a line. Either way. So those are some ways to get into citizen science, and I really hope you as a citizen of the human race embrace science. Maybe not to the extreme, but just as a process. But either way, really looking forward to what you do, okay? Okay, so we have a few launches coming up. And before I get started on the launches per se, I do want to point out two really good, really helpful things that have been really useful to me. Launch Alarm and flightclub.io. These two things have really made it simple for me to figure out like when are people launching and whatnot. But it also gives you a Launch Alarm, the app, will give you a link to the stream if it is available, as well as a mission briefing and launch times and even where it is launching from. So if you're in that area, you know where to look. Also, in terms of flightclub.io, that is it can be a technical site, but it can be rather simplistic in allowing you to see visually the launch pattern or the launch trajectory of the vehicle. And it will even show you like the first stage, when that's going to happen, and even like all the T plus points of action. So if you want to see like the SpaceX launch, how it will look in Google Earth, definitely check out flightclub.io. Also going to link both the app and the Flight Club website in the description below. First of all, going to start off with the Chinese launch, because there's not a lot of information on it, but it is taking place within, I want to say tomorrow actually, I believe on Tuesday. So tomorrow it will be taking place, and the only information is that it is launching an Earth observation satellite. That's about it. Okay, but they have been developing this rocket for a while, and its tests have been pretty promising so forth. Going to talk about some of the past launches, but they also have another launch coming up in 2 weeks, which, as you guessed, is pretty vague, but I'll keep you up to date on it during the next podcast launch notes. And in a few days, on September 3rd, is going to be a SpaceX launch. So this launch in particular, it will of course have the hosted and technical webcasts, so definitely check those out. But it is launching a satellite. So it's not necessarily launching the Dragon capsule that goes up to the ISS, more on that later. But it's launching a satellite which is working with telecommunications over Africa and Europe, I believe it is, and it should have a 16-year service life. So probably won't be launching this particular satellite replacement up anytime soon, which is a good thing, for the client at least. Also, and going to end on the big one, OSIRIS-REx. This exploration mission to the asteroid Bennu is coming up on September 8th at 1 p.m. West Coast time. So, if you haven't heard, OSIRIS-REx is an exploration mission. I just said oh my goodness. Pretty much, it's going to go to the asteroid and drill in, take 2 ounces out, come back. This whole shindig is going to take 7 years. I know that seems like a long time, but they have to launch it. It has to get a gravity assist. It has to go out, come back in, meet up with the asteroid in roughly about 2 years, I believe it was. Go there, stay there for about a year, observe it, take different measurements over the course of the year, then get it sampled, hightail it back to Earth using gravity assist. It can't just fire its rockets straight back to Earth. Earth is a moving target, per se. So, do some more gravity assist, come back, land. I believe it's going to be landing in Arizona. They have a landing site, I believe it. I could be wrong, but either way, it'll land. And I found it rather interesting they would land on land rather than water. But either way, it's going to land, I'm really hoping, intact. And once it's back, they're going to study the samples and go from there. Now, some of you may have heard of my favorite, Deep Space Industries. They have been around for many years and have been planning on how to go to the asteroids and mine them. And I'm going to link to you a video on asteroid mining that goes really in depth. And it's not like, asteroid mining is cool and that's it. No, it's like, hey, here's the 3 different types of asteroids. Here's their commonality. So it's not really technical, but it's really relatable. So you'll walk away understanding asteroid mining, not just understanding that, asteroid mining is cool, but you actually get the finesse of it. So the Issac Arthur video on asteroid mining is down below. Please check it out. Really informative. and really easy to follow, thankfully. So definitely check that out. Anywho, back to DSI. Not like the handheld game console, but Deep Space Industries. Hopefully, I'm really looking forward to what they get out of this NASA mission. Because this one is by NASA, so it's not on the same level as DSI. It is just as important, however, because just how the Hayabusa mission, way back in 2010, the Japanese Aerospace Association had sent out an orbiter to an asteroid, got some samples, brought it back, and a lot of the methods they used to get there, as well as study the samples safely, are being transferred over to the OSIRIS-REx crew. So I'm really hoping this trickle down of knowledge also goes down to Deep Space Industries. So we'll definitely see where that comes from, goes toward, actually. Either way, keep tabs on it. I'll keep you up to date, but let's watch that launch, okay? Because it's going to be in a few days. So, I guess not a few days per se, but in about a week, check it out. And to clarify, the launch window opens in 1 week on September 8th. Just to put it out there, this is when they can begin a launch. Let's say if on September 8th, Hurricane Hail Mary comes through. Not even sure if that's the name, but a hurricane or something pops up and they can't launch. Okay, they have a 30-day window to launch, and each day there is a 120-minute window allowed. Because when they set up, they can't just keep the engines on standby all day, They have to have a set amount of time. So if, let's say on the 8th, no go, okay, they can try again on the 9th. And let's say it doesn't work that day. Okay, they can go on the next day. Let's say that doesn't work. All right, they're going to keep trying. And they're going to try again on the next day. And the next day. And the next day. Okay, I really do remember that episode. And so, pretty much, they'll keep trying until they get it off the ground. So, definitely will keep you up on that. And I really am going to be tweeting a lot about that. So, if you do happen to follow me for whatever reason, get ready to have your feed blown up on the 8th. Probably should edit that one out. Okay, and on to some past news. So, another launch coming up is the Chinese, actually, I'm sorry, not a launch, but a launch that has taken place, is the Chinese launch. They launched a satellite for quantum communication. Yes, quantum communication. That's not like a fancy buzzword for really a high-speed communication. No, literally using quantum encryption is how that satellite communicates. So you can't just communicate to nothing else. They have to have a base for it, like something else that can accept those encryptions. So right now, I believe they're testing between the satellite and different parts of China. Similar, I feel it reminds me back, and I hate to make the reference, but how the ARPANET formed, having a mesh topology of, if the West Coast burns up, due to the Russians, then hey, we can still communicate between other sites. I feel it might be something within that realm. Not a lot of information is out on it because #China government, but at the same time, it is really interesting to see where this goes. A lot of information won't be shared between China and the US, primarily due to policies and protocols, things like the ITAR, which prevents proprietary data being shared between the US and its allies and non-NATO members. I believe it's either non-NATO members or some other standard of allyship, quote-unquote. However, interesting to see what they do with that. From there, I've noticed also, I can't really say notice, but they also are launching other items into space, so we'll see where that goes. But it's interesting because a lot of people will say, quantum encryption is the best thing out there, but it has been proven to be hackable. Actually, it was hacked last year, I believe it was. Yes, last year. Darn, actually, I may have the year wrong, I've been having trouble finding this paper, but it was talking about a university that was doing quantum communication between the labs, and somebody started hacking into it. Or it was known that they were hacking into it just to test it. But again, really, if you know this paper, please link it down below. Wow, I'm asking for a lot of comments. I'm just going to put like a sign that says please comment. Anywho, pretty much there is the assumption that quantum communications can't be broken, because if you do tamper with them, it'll trigger it and destroy the message. Sounds pretty safe, yeah. But that assumption is what led to this exploit. Because, well, okay, if it gets tampered with or any errors occur, then it's going to cancel out. But naturally, it does have errors. So, given it has errors naturally, if it has any error innately, then it would just cancel out. So you have to allow a certain amount of errors. So a 20% message error is what was the threshold. Anything above that, it would be suspicious and it would cancel out. But the hackers figured, oh, okay, well, if it has 20%, how can we tweak it to where we can mess with it just enough to where we don't get it up there? So what they started doing actually was, instead of just trying to figure out how much they can tamper with it, they started fixing them. Apparently they started fixing the message and making it less errorness. So they were reducing the error on it and being able to read it. So they were helping them out, but also snooping in on their mail. It's kind of like the neighbor that's like when you get something from the post office, it's like, oh, it comes banged up, in the Amazon box. But this neighbor in particular, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to make your box look really pretty. But first I'm going to open it up, take everything out, replace it with some dirt, and then ship it to you. And you're never going to, actually, you will know. You will know if they put dirt in it. But you get the gist. So that's how that was hacked. It has been, quote unquote, it has been patched. But there are many other ways to break it down. Remember the SSL hacking or what was it? WebGL, another hack. Actually, I believe those two are the same. Anywho, there have been major hacks that we often overlook because it's the norm. I feel that will come of quantum communications as well. I don't want to go deep down that rabbit hole of quantum communications because I'm not even going to go above my depth on that one. I kind of already have. But I do want to talk about the Google Lunar X Prize and wrap it up on that. So I want to wrap up Moonday Monday number 3 on the Google Lunar X Prize. I usually, in my first few podcasts, in all of my podcasts up until launch dates for both Moon Express and SpaceIL, this will be a very talked about topic within all of these podcasts. However, just want to wrap up with a little bit more info on them. I don't really feel I've been giving them justice. While I do have talked about Moon Express and Team SpaceIL in the past, I don't really think I've done them justice. When I've talked about Moon Express, I'm not sure if I mentioned how they are they pretty much really, actually, they really did encourage me to do this podcast. No, I'm not saying they came to me and said, hey, Spark, do a podcast, make it awesome. No. I'm not funded by any of these guys. I've reached out to a few people. I've gotten a tweet back from someone. No, actually, huh. Okay, well, no. Oh, well, no. Actually, yes. One of the companies likes my tweet. I'm not going to say who. Not playing favorites. Thank you very much. But I really do enjoy them both. And I really want to thank Moon Express because they really encouraged this podcast. Once again, not paying me. But when I saw they got approved by the FAA, I was like, wow, I kind of want to do something. I've always wanted to be a commercial space magnet. Magnet. And pretty much by magnet, I don't mean like the attraction or any thermal laws of thermodynamics or any of that fun stuff. I mean like the guy who's like a fat business cat. I don't see myself as like a Wall Street version of a space pioneer or anything like that. But I'm like, I want to actually contribute to the space economy. When I went to the 3D printing expo down in SoCal last year, when I stood up and introduced myself, I was like, I want to bring orbital manufacturing with 3D printing to space and make that a thing. And people are like, oh, okay, so we found the crazy guy of the room. If you were at that expo and somehow listening to this podcast, hello and welcome. But yes, if you remember that guy, that was me. And I truly meant that. I want to do something in space, have been planning on doing something with lunar resourcing within the next 10 years. When I heard the news of Moon Express getting approved weeks back, I was like, whoa, okay, this is really happening. I kind of thought the Google Lunar X Prize was a dead project. It had been extended so many times and threatened to be canceled that I honestly lost hope. I'm glad that they are still going, and to amend for my lack of faith, I really want to contribute. And me being on a podcast isn't really helping us getting us to the moon, but I see myself more as a public knowledge officer thanks to the advancements of Moon Express. So really looking forward to what they do and whatnot, but their rover, the Moon Express rover, just to give an overview because I don't think I've explained it, uses hydrogen peroxide formula propellant to float essentially across the lunar plane. And the Team SpaceIL one, however, hasn't really been revealed. The lander has, but the rover per se hasn't. And for the Moon Express one, let me just clarify. I believe that's the rover. I could be confusing it with the lander. I've seen, because I have some of their documents from presentations a few years ago that I found, but it made it look like, oh yeah, it's going to be like a lander or the MX-1, I believe, where it can just like propel itself via burst of gas or hydrogen peroxide to move across the moon. And I think that's genius versus something that goes on wheels. We'll definitely see. As a drone enthusiast, if you see the Rotor Geeks strap that I have on my microphone, studio boom arm that says Rotor Geeks, definitely have been into drones. When I found out about the possibility of drones on the moon last year, or earlier this year, there was discussion of drones being on the moon. I fell in love with that idea. So to see Moon Express pursue that idea to an extent, really looking forward to it. And again, nothing is finalized. Rocket Labs is still building up the launch sites and whatnot, so we'll see. But either way, really looking forward to exactly what the rover is, exactly what the lander is. And to be honest, we aren't really going to know until they both land on the moon. Because up until even on launch day, we'll have an idea of oh, the rover's going to look like this, and we'll have an idea of how it will behave. But we won't know until we see it truly in action on the lunar surface. And that is the test of all. Because if it gets out there and doesn't even move, it doesn't matter what I say on the podcast. It doesn't matter what Moon Express or Team SpaceIL says about it. If it doesn't move, it doesn't move. So once it gets up there and starts moving, that's when we can have a real conversation on the next step of humanity. Well, listener, we have reached the end of the phase of Moonday Monday number 3. Thank you very much for listening. But before you go, I want to give a shout out for you to check out some people. Of those, Issac Arthur. Definitely thank you not only for even mentioning me in your latest video, but also I want to thank this guy for being an inspiration to me and many other people. If you check out his comment section, it's a super positive place. People thanking him just for making awesome, easy to understand science videos. And he's really been doing a lot. He has a pretty good background as well. I'm not going to go into his bio and all that right now, but definitely do check out his YouTube channel as well as his SoundCloud. Because while it is great to watch his visuals that are really well done, it is also nice to just hear his voice as you're going about your day. If you can't just hold your phone and watch your phone or on YouTube. So definitely check him out. Easy to understand, but really knowledgeable science, even if you are up there. Also, want to shout out to Mark Bruce. he's been doing a lot of Science Sunday articles. So every Sunday he'll release a digest on things that are occurring, or breakthroughs rather, that are happening in various fields of science. So some things you may have heard of, some things you may not have, and that's what always is really interesting. And he's been doing this for years. Always a person I've looked up to. Great person from Australia. Also, let's see. Who else do I mean, I have mentioned a lot of people such as Scott Manley, Artifexcian, PBS Spacetime, but I also really, really need to thank Mr. Tyson and Star Talk Radio. That, I remember years back just listening to it as I would go about my day, either at work, off work, walking to the store, and just learning so much. And it's really entertaining, super fun to listen to. And again, I don't know I know Isaac and Mark, but everybody else I really don't know per se. So I'm saying this as a thank you because these people have helped me so much, especially Star Talk Radio. Congratulations on his show. If you have not seen his show, he has been approved for another season. Definitely check it out and get some enrichment on science. I definitely will be talking about more of these people in the future. And also, wait, let me be clear. When I give shoutouts to people, it's not because I want anything back. I don't want to be on Star Talk. I mean, it would be great, but I don't want to be on Star Talk Radio. I don't want Scott to give me a shout out in his videos. I don't need Mark to put me into his digest or anything. I want you to go there and discover them. Make them a part of your life so you can better enrich yourself. Thank you very much for investing your time in me, and I really hope you walk away with just a spark. If you walk away with a spark, mission accomplished. Either way, you have a great Monday, or rather, have a great Moonday Monday. And I hope that leads to you having a great week. No matter what comes at you, keep going, keep your head up, okay? Take care, friend.